Welcome to another edition of Papa Bojo's Kitchen. Today I'm going to make a vegan version of mulligatawny soup, a great Indian spice soup. Here are your ingredients. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to dice up a couple of the root vegetables, and then we'll get to the stove and start cooking. So here you see I have an onion, about a half an onion or a medium-sized onion, 1 carrot. I've got some garlic. I've got about 3 cloves of garlic, and I've got some ginger that we're going to dice up. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to dice this onion up, and it doesn't matter really how big the pieces you are cutting this into, because we're eventually going to be using an emulsion blender, or if you have one, if you don't have that, you can use a regular blender or a food processor to smooth out the soup. You can leave it chunky too if you want. So there's the onion. I'm going to set this aside. I've got to grab an apple. And I'm actually going to use the skins as well in this. You don't have to. You can peel the skins off if you want. But because we're going to blend this, and the soup's going to be cooking long enough for the skins to soften, we're not going to worry about the skins too much. They add a little bit more in terms of nutrients or whatever. But again, feel free to dice them if you want. This is going to add a little sweetness because we got a little heat going on with the ginger and with the red pepper flakes. So this adds a nice natural sweetness without adding any sugar. And if you notice, when we look at the red pepper flakes that we're using, those are hot, but the coconut milk is unsweetened, and it's going to actually temper some of the heat down as well. So I've got the apples and the onions diced. Then we're going to take the same thing with the carrots. I'm going to break the carrot into 3 pieces like this. And I'm just going to dice this into fairly big chunks. Lay these flat. And also dice these. And then what we're going to do with the both the garlic and with ginger is we're going to dice these fairly fine. And we're going to cook the ginger and the garlic together. So we can actually mix these together after we're done dicing, and then run our knives through it a few more times to even go finer. The finer we go with this, the quicker the flavors of both the garlic and the ginger will mingle through everything. Now, one thing about mulligatawny soup, if you look, like a lot of things, if I were to say this was authentic, I'd be lying, because what I found is there is no real authentic mulligatawny soup. There's a bunch of different ways to make it with different types of lentils or dal. There's the vegan version like this. I'm going to use water for vegan. You can use water, or you can use vegetable broth. And there's also a chicken version where you use chicken stock, and you use, traditionally, if you're going to use chicken, you use the boneless chicken thighs for that. You could use chicken breast if you want, but most of the recipes that I've seen out there were the ones using the chicken thighs. Now, I got to give a shout out to my son. My son actually made this exact, well, not the exact recipe, made this recipe with the chicken. And he had me taste it. He brought some over for me to try, and it was so phenomenal. I had to get the recipe from him. So this recipe is the recipe my son gave me. Again, what he did is he had chicken in his. I'm just doing mine vegan. So now that I've got the garlic and the ginger together, I'm going to run my knife through it a few more times. It's probably good enough. And now we're ready to go to the stove and start putting this all together. It'll come together pretty quick. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the ghee to this. And if you don't know what ghee is, all ghee is clarified butter. It's got the fat taken out of the butter. And what that allows you to do is to heat it to a high heat without burning the fat solids and getting that nutty flavor. You can use regular vegetable oil, grapeseed oil, or even olive oil if you want. Now we stir in our onion and our carrot and the chili flakes, and we're going to stir this for about a minute. After about a minute over medium heat, we're going to now add in and stir in our ginger and garlic and cook this for about another 1 to 2 minutes. Make sure the garlic does not burn. Now we're going to stir in our apple and also stir in our rinsed and cleaned lentils. Red lentil is what we're using here. If you look, there's a bunch of different recipes. Some they use like a yellow and red combined. Some they use green. So again, there's no one single way to make mulligatawny soup. But this, I can tell you from tasting it, is fantastic. Once you get the lentils and apple all mixed in, you're going to put in all of your spices and you're going to stir these in. And we're going to toast these just for a little bit. By toasting the spices, it intensifies the flavor of all of the spices. When you see it start getting a little dry, then it's time to go to the next step. Now we stir in our diced tomatoes. That gives us a little bit of liquid, which helps to clean up any of the stickiness of the spices on the bottom. And get ready pretty quick, because as soon as you get those mixed in, you're going to take your 3 cups of liquid, whether it be water, broth, or stock. You're going to stick this in, and you're going to stir this. You're going to turn your heat up to high and bring this to a boil. Once you see it coming to a boil, I'm going to add my teaspoon of salt. And now I'm going to partially cover, turning this down to a simmer. And we're going to simmer this for 30 minutes. Well, it's been 30 minutes, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take our coconut milk, our unsweetened coconut milk. We're going to stir it in. Don't worry if it's chunky like this. Sometimes it's nice and smooth. Sometimes it's chunky. We're going to stir this in, and now what we're going to do is we're going to use our immersion blender. We're going to blend all of this together. This is just the consistency that I want. No big pieces. If you want big pieces, you can leave them in. Now you're going to taste it. So I'm going to put about another, 1/2 to 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to blend this all together to mix it in on low. So now I'm going to take a nice couple heaping ladlefuls of this. I'm going to pour this in here in a nice bowl. I'm going to take a little bit of cilantro. You can leave this out if you want. I'm just going to add a little bit in. Add a couple nice little florals to it. And if you want, you can even add a dollop of sour cream, or you could use yogurt. You could drizzle it with chili oil, whatever you want to do. But this is it. This is pretty much the recipe my son gave me, minus the chicken, for a phenomenal mulligatawny soup. I'll take this up closer so you can get a look at it. And obviously I'll have some good pictures of it. This is going to be super flavorful. You see in the list of all of the spices. It's a spicy soup. It's got a depth of flavor. It's really good, and it's actually very healthy for you too. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Papa Bojo's Kitchen, and I hope you come and see me again. Buon appetito, everybody. Bye.